Tigers fans, we are in one of the most critical and pivotal moments in our season. We are going up against the Melbourne Storm just 2 weeks out before our bye. We have new signings of new players coming in. Any minute now, we will hear who they are. I'm guessing it's going to be Taylan May, but we're going to be breaking it all down and our season so far and how we're looking and how we're shaping up to be in the top 8. And I thought, well, what better way to do that than to have an actual NRL analysis and reporter from ABC on the show. So we have Isaac Issa. He's joining us on the show today. But before we do that, welcome back to NRL Deep Dive. This is your one-stop shop for all things West Tigers. And if you love the black, orange, and white as much as I do, as much as all you subscribers do, make sure you like and subscribe because we are in for a treat today. We have Isaac Issa on the show. Let's get into it. Isaac, mate, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for jumping on here, brother. I appreciate it.
It's all right, man. I'm more than happy to kind of take the time out, and I'm always happy to chat footy. So, happy to be here, man.
Love it. Awesome. Well, yeah, welcome to the channel, brother. So, yeah, this is NRL Deep Dive. We are all things West Tigers here. And I've seen you on Big Les's show and stuff. I was like, I got to get this bloke on the potty. So, stoked to be here. So, maybe if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, kind of who you are, what you do. That way the viewers kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, like I said before, I love chatting all things footy, and that's basically my whole life, just footy. As I'm sure it's the same for yourself as well. I'm currently an NRL sports writer for Zero Tackle, so I do a lot of article writing over there, just chatting all things footy, whether it's news, trending topics, or just a few fun opinion pieces as well. So, I'm huge on just all my writing and stuff when it comes to footy. I'm also a international producer over at ABC News. So I do a lot of work over there as well. And that's an awesome gig as well. But like I said, my passion lies in footy. So anytime I can get my hands on anything footy related, I love to do that. And I'm also just studying journalism at the moment at uni. So I'm in my last year at the moment. So I'm keen to kind of get that finished up as well. So I can, just put my full focus into the whole journalism thing. But that's basically kind of what I'm doing at the moment. And as you would have seen, I do a lot of my work over on Instagram on Isaac Issa _journalist. So that's basically the gist of what I've been doing at the moment. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm just a bloke who loves chatting footy. So
Yeah, love it, man. Well, that's awesome. And stoked to hear that you are having that international impact as well. That's really, really cool. I kind of put out a poll or a questionnaire to a bunch of my subscribers and kind of wanted to get their voice in this as well. I definitely have some questions I want to ask. First off, who do you support? Do you have a team you back?
Yeah, look, I try not to come off too biased in my on the work side, but if we're talking personal, I'm a huge Doggies fan.
Solid year, solid season so far for you boys.
I think we've been through enough over the last decade, and as a Tiger supporter, I feel like I'm sure you feel the same kind of coming out on the other side of the tunnel. It's been an awesome season for my Doggies, and if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm not fully there yet, but I'm seeing early signs of what we saw in 2024 for the Dogs, for the Tigers in 2025. So I think it's a good time for both our clubs. And it's good to just kind of see some fresh faces in the top 8. So it's really good at the moment.
100%. Well, yeah, on the topic of top 8, so when you think about trends that you see in the top 8, especially as you do articles and report on them, what do you see the Tigers maybe haven't adopted yet in terms of the top 8 mentality? There's a lot of talk of us making the top 8 in the finals and stuff, and we're there now. But what do you think are some of the key things that we haven't actually quite adopted yet that if we do, man, we're going deep into the finals?
Awesome question. And it's something that I feel like a lot of people don't really take into account when kind of looking who the trajectory of the competition as it kind of moves forward. And it's something that I've noticed with a lot of the teams that kind of fluctuate in and out of the top 8. When it comes to the Tigers, I think the strongest, the weakest thing for the Tigers at the moment is adopting that top 8 mentality. The talent is there across the board. You've got guys like Jerome May, who's essentially the best front rower in the comp right now. You've got a premiership winning half in Jerome Leiluas and probably the best 5'8" in the comp right now in Lachlan Galvin. You've got all the talent there across the board, which is something that a lot of the top 8 sides over the last few years have lacked. But the one thing that I think that the Tigers are missing right now, and it's definitely something that they can adopt moving forward, is that top 8 mentality. I feel like the side doesn't know just how to nail those 1%ers yet that maybe some of those other top 8 sides can do. You look at sides like Penrith over the last few years, the Dogs this year, and what the Storm have done basically for the last 20 years. It's all nailing all those 1%ers and those little effort plays. And while I feel like the Tigers are absolutely getting there, and they're leaps and bounds over what they, their wooden spoon days, which I believe are well over now.
Let's go.
I honestly think that as the Tigers kind of progress further, they'll definitely adopt it. But similar to what, and I relate it back to the Dogs, obviously, because I keep a keen eye on them. I look back at them last year, and I feel like in the opening maybe 3 months of the competition, they also didn't have that top 8 mentality where they were nailing those 1%ers. And on a lot of occasions, they were relying on talent as opposed to the grit and grind of the game. But I think that as the season kind of moves forward and, they start to recognize themselves a little bit more as a top 8 side, I definitely see the club towards the end of the season making it into the 8, not based just off talent, but also based off that, those 1%ers that I think they'll adopt throughout the season.
100%, man. I totally agree. And with that, you mentioned we've got to accept that mentality, right? And we're going up against probably one of the toughest teams in the league right now. And I mean, kind of in the league in history, that's the Melbourne Storm. So if you were in the coach's box, if you were in Benji's shoes this week, based off of our performance against the St. George Illawarra Dragons last weekend, a phenomenal first half. Second half was classic Tigers. We came out, we kind of blew it, we'll gas. Just couldn't find that rhythm and tone right. What would you be working on this week at training with the boys one-on-one to prepare for our game against the Melbourne Storm?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I kind of bring it back to that whole mentality thing because, again, over the weekend, I was watching that game and I was actually I was watching it with a mate who's a Tiger supporter, and he said the exact same thing. He said, "Classic Tigers, you nailed it at the start of the game, and then started to fade off." And it comes back to that whole mentality thing. The Tigers probably have, and it's something that's overlooked a lot in the competition. Tigers probably have one of the most talented sides in the competition across the board. You've got top 3, top 5 players in each position across the whole side. But it's that mentality thing, and I think that's what I'd be working with the boys over the week. It's nailing those 1%ers, nailing, instead of, coming out the gates and just, relying on the talent side of things. I think you've got that down pack. I think you need to now work on coming out and staying at a consistent grind throughout the whole game, whether that's, working on defensive drills throughout the whole week over and over again, just to make sure that your first set is just as good as your last set. I think that's a really important thing for the Tigers this week because you've got a side like Melbourne who, obviously they're coming off the loss last week, which probably has sparked a fire, not only under the team, but under Bellamy as well. But you've got a side like Melbourne that is known for just consistent footy. Their first 4 minutes are the same as their last 4 minutes. And I think that's something that while the Tigers aren't going to perfect that in 1 week, I definitely think that by working on fitness drills, on defensive drills, just steering away from the attack side, which I know the Tigers have got in them. I think if they, kind of steer a little bit towards more nailing those 1%ers, I think they've got a real shot at upsetting the Storm this week.
I love it. I love it. So a big thing that stood out to me against the Dragons was Luai's leadership. We've been, as a club, as fans, been waiting for him to step up and take that, premiership leader role, right? And there was so much stuff, obviously, with the Galvin drama and just stepping into this new team and finding that chemistry and injuries and stuff. But how much of an impact do you think it has that the fact that Luai stepped up last game and going forward, if he can continues to lead the pack, to steer the ship, what do you think will be the result of that?
Yeah, look, when it comes to Luai, and it's something that's similar to the likes of, I look at Stephen Crichton joining the Dogs last year, and I'm trying to think of other. There've been few captains that have made the similar impact that Stephen Crichton did out the gates, and I see a similar trajectory for Jerome Leiluas as well at the Tigers, and I think you saw it from day one. He's obviously got the belief of his guys in that side, and as much as this is obviously Benji Marshall's team, Jerome Leiluas he's got the runs on the board as a premiership winner. and he leads through his voice as well as his actions. So I think that if the Tigers are going to be successful not only this week but for the rest of the season, they need to really lean on the faith that Jerome Leiluas has shown in this side, because I think that, as I said, and I can say it for very few sides in the comp, Tigers really do have the talent to go deep into this competition, but it's guys like Jerome Leiluas and that premiership mentality, that leadership mentality that you don't get from many players in the competition. And I think you can see it throughout the the opening 8 to 9 rounds of the competition. You look at the game against the Dragons. Obviously, like we said, the Tigers did fall off in that game. But if Jerome Leiluas isn't in the ears of every single player in that side, I think that the Tigers go on to lose, and I think they lose big in that game. So I think moving forward, if you've got Jerome Leiluas continuing to grow in confidence as a leader, and this pack and this group growing even more faithful in his leadership, I think that Jerome Leiluas' leadership can essentially get the Tigers into the top 8 and potentially pass the first round of the finals as well.
For sure, man. I 100% agree. And on that, like, there was a moment that I, as a Tigers fan, was quite scared and quite concerned, and that was when all of the Lockyer Galvin drama came down with Isaac Moses and whatnot. And as someone who's like in the news and writes for a living, like, what kind of effect does the media actually play on like a club's culture? And the fact that we did take a loss, sure, but Galvin came back on, Benji put him back on, and we took the field. We came away with wins. We're going on our 3rd win with the Melbourne Storm hopefully this week. Like, what impact does the media actually have on the club culture? And then, like, the fact that we could overcome that, how is that, like, just a true testament to what the Tigers are doing this year?
I think that people don't understand just the impact that the media has on a club and on players' mentality going forward. And that's why I've actually found, since Lockyer Galvin has come back, the fact that you guys are winning has actually been, as you said, a true testament to what the Tigers are building. Because as someone who works in the media and has, dealt with, obviously like writing about players and clubs and all those kind of things, I've seen firsthand that the things that, that the media put out and discuss, the players are reading all of it. The players are watching all of it. And I know that, players come out in press conferences saying, oh, I don't pay attention to the media. And I don't, if they do, they absolutely do. They're watching stories, they're reading stories. And and if they don't like something, like, I've had players reach out to me about a few things as well. And it goes to show that it's what the media says, while players don't, take that as gospel. They are reading it, they are hearing it. And once you read and hear something, that's it. It's locked in your mind. And, potentially the biggest story of this NRL season, if it wasn't the DCE saga, it's the Galvin saga.
100%.
And what followed was obviously the whole drama with, Taruva and Luai with the Instagram stories and blah, blah, blah. That plays a huge role into not only, Galvin's mentality around, obviously there were bullying allegations following and blah, blah, blah. But it also goes into the rest of the team, the starting 17, that's top 30. It's playing on everyone's mind, the tension that's rising there. And when you've got the media kind of plugging it over and over and over again throughout the week and the weeks that follow, it only plays a bigger part. And the fact that the Tigers have been able to kind of put that to the side and play footy, I feel like has been an underrated, it's been an underrated ability that not a lot of clubs have. Like, you look at sides, like I look at it in the past recent history, like you look at the Manly saga a few years ago with the whole Pride jersey thing, that derailed their season, and they essentially, they couldn't come back from that. And it led to further implications down the road. And I think the media played a huge part in that. And so when you've got, such huge headlines around a club and around, your star player, and the fact that you're able to put that to the side, play footy and embrace each other as a club and as a team and as brothers, I think it's a true testament to what Benji Marshall is building over there. And I think that while it's exciting for right now, it's also exciting for the future for Tigers fans as well.
100%. That was so well said, man. I agree. Like, it's truly inspiring just to see how this club, like the history of this club, we don't have a history of bouncing back from things like this. So it's so exciting to see just the impact that it's having on the players for good, right? And the fact that they're using it for fuel. And like Luai said, team first, and that's what it's about. And kind of going off of that, what did you think of Charlie Stanger's kind of debut to this season? He was back after a perforated bowel injury and stuff like that, and he came out. He scored 2 tries. He was all over that edge, and he was just nailing it. How were you impressed with him, or what are some areas that he could maybe improve going up against the Storm?
Yeah, first of all, shout out to anyone who brought Charlie Staines into their super coach or fantasy side, because he
No
absolutely
kidding.
killed it out the gates. No, I feel like Charlie Staines has been kind of a forgotten soul over at the Tigers. Obviously, like you said, he's been dealing with some health troubles and injury troubles, but the fact that he came out and he smashed it. He absolutely smashed it and showed why he was one of the most highly touted outside backs coming through the ranks. Obviously, joining the Tigers, he joined the Tigers during not so good times as opposed to what they're kind of going through now. But and kind of relating back to what you said before, where the Tigers haven't been known to bounce back from things before, I think it's showing that not only is the club, growing that kind of backbone, but the players are as well. And, the fact that Staines was able to come out and absolutely smash it, I think, it's a true testament to what the club is building. As opposed to, in regards to Staines himself, I think that, well, obviously two tries out the gates, it's awesome, and it's great for Tigers fans to see, the talent that we all know he has. I think the next step for Staines is essentially just stability. I think that being able to maintain this place in this side and being consistent while doing it, I think is probably going to be one of the biggest challenges of Staines' career. Staines is still fairly young. Obviously, he had quite a bit of success over at Penrith and not so much at the Tigers. But I think if you've got guys like Taruva, guys like Luai and Coruscant who also have that premiership winning mentality, I think that he can bounce off them and continue to grow his game and essentially reach the heights that I think we all once thought Charlie Staines would reach. And I think that he's got a place in this Tigers backline for the years to come. If he can shore up his defense, if he can stay, consistent on the attacking side, and not just focusing on the highlight plays, but focusing on the little stuff as well. Run meters, runs per game, post contact meters, and just making sure that he can keep it at a consistent basis. I think that he can be, a mainstay in that Tigers backline for the next few years.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, and we're like with Gerald Skelton out and Stafford-Toa out, like these are prime moments for people like Staines to like shine. Someone that hasn't shined too well is Brent Nen. This past game, as a Tigers fan, I love to stay optimistic and positive, but there are definitely lapses that are leaning more towards his edge, right? Defensively, but also on attack too. There are some incomplete plays, things like that, just some errors that could definitely be cleaned up. And Benji Marshall, named the team list for this week going up against the Storm, and it's unchanged, and he's still there. And a lot of the fans are left wondering, like, what the heck? Like, why is Benji giving this bloke a second chance? But honestly, it's like, why fix something if it ain't broke, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is the saying. And what are your thoughts on Brent Nen kind of stepping in again this week? And could we kind of see someone? We have signings coming up. Apparently, Richo said. Could we see someone like Taylan May coming in? What are your overall thoughts on all of that and how that could play out?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think I share the same kind of thoughts as you and as a lot of Tigers fans. While Brent Nen has obviously been a serviceable NRL player for the last, I believe he's nearly 10 years into his career now, if he hasn't already reached it. Brent Nen, he's a serviceable NRL player, but he's a star by no means. And I do question his role in this side. And look, I don't believe that Nen has been NRL level in the league for the last few seasons, and I've been confused when he has made this first grade squad. It makes me think that there's potentially more to do with the locker room sides of things and the leadership side as opposed to his actual talent on field. And honestly, I view Naden a little bit more as a plug-in and as just a leader in this Tigers side. I don't see him as being a mainstay in this backline by any means. And obviously, you've got guys like, Taylan May, who's, again, similar to Charlie Staines, was one of the most highly touted outside backs coming through. And honestly, I can't see him going anywhere else other than the Tigers. Obviously, he's got that connection with his brother, Terrell May. And they've said on numerous occasions that they want to be playing together. So if I'm being honest, and I haven't heard anything, concrete, but I have heard whispers that, there's nowhere else that Taylan May really would end up. There have been whispers about the Roosters, but if I'm being honest, I think I see him in a Tigers jersey moving forward. And again, and going back to Naden, I think that just goes to show that he is essentially just a plug-in for now. And he is a serviceable NRL player, but he's not a star by any means. And if I'm a Tigers fan, I wouldn't put too much on the fact that he is still in this side. And if I'm being honest, I don't see him playing many more NRL games this year, unless, obviously you've got injuries in the backline, which, the Tigers obviously have had in the last couple of months. But yeah, no, I don't mind Naden, but I wouldn't have him in this NRL side for much longer.
Yeah, man, I agree. I'm on the same boat. I mean, I love the bloke to bits, honestly. Like, he is a phenomenal person, a great player. But just with the team where it's at, where it's going, I just don't see him keeping up. And we're on a trajectory, and Benji's got his eyes set on that, and so does people like Jerome Leiluas, and so they just know what they want, and I just don't think Naden's part of that, and that's okay, right? We have those people, but people like our young fellas like Heath Mason, Luke, and Kit Lowry, like, where do you see them in the future of the club? Like, because those guys are absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, they're young. They need some resource. They still aren't like full 80-minute, NRL ready. Same thing with like Taylan Da Silva. There's talk of him becoming our, starter hooker here in the next couple of years with Uppy possibly moving out and moving on. What would you suggest to the club to do to make sure we keep our young talent and utilize them correctly?
Absolutely, man. And I bring it back to a side like the Bulldogs, because I really do see both clubs kind of heading in the same, trajectory. I think that the biggest thing for the Tigers right now, obviously you've got young guys like Heath Mason and the like who, killing it in the lower grades and definitely can be stars in the NRL and mainstays in this side. But I believe that for the Tigers to be successful, you need to lay the foundations first. And by blooding too many young guys, I think would only be a detriment to the Tigers over the next maybe year or two. I think that, similar to the Bulldogs, where they've solidified their side and they're sticking to it. Obviously, the Bulldogs have a lot of young guys coming through, and they've had to let a lot of young guys go as well. Guys like Gerard Skelton, guys like, Papali'i over at the Parramatta Eels now. Unfortunately, the downside of, bringing up these juniors is the risk of losing them. But you don't want to blood them too early, because I look at a guy like, for example, Paul Alamotti at the Bulldogs a couple of years ago, got brought in way too early and was essentially moved on from the club. Obviously, he's killing it at Panthers now that he's NRL ready, but I think it goes to show that bringing in these young guys too early is only a detriment. And I look at another side like the Melbourne Storm with Jack Howarth over there. They obviously waited, years until they brought him into their side, and till he was basically NRL ready, and he's killing it now for them at center. And I think that's an important thing that the Tigers need to take into account. Even guys like Taylan Da Silva, while, you definitely want to keep these young guys, you've got an all-star hooker in Api Coruscant. And as much as you want to look towards the future, you do need to lay those foundations. And so by keeping a solid, consistent starting 17, I think, is the most important thing for the Tigers right now. And the young guys will see that the club is heading, in a direction that's a positive one, and will be willing to wait a season or 2 seasons if they know they're part of the process somewhere. But if they're rushing in to bring these young guys in early just to make sure that they don't lose them, I think it's a sign of desperation from the club that I don't think that Richo or Benji Marshall really want to instill into the culture now that they've kind of made that shift. So yeah, for me personally, the biggest thing for the Tigers right now is to lay the foundations of success and focus on making the 8 above anything else. And I think that once you kind of lay those foundations and show not only the rest of the club but your juniors that you are headed in a positive direction, you're going to attract these juniors and make them want to stay, as opposed to desperately keeping them by blooding them too early.
100%, man. Couldn't agree more. And we've built in that foundation. And, if we do that, we make the top 8, we go deep in the finals. Do you honestly think there's any chance that Lockyer Galvin stays, and should we keep him?
I don't think there's anything you can do to keep Lockyer Galvin at the club. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't think Tigers fans or officials should want him at the club.
Yep.
Great guy. He's a young kid. He's only 19 and he's essentially top 5, if not top 10 player in the comp right now. But he has made a decision 2 years out from the end of his contract to leave the club. And if I'm being honest with you and kind of just going into a personal direction, not even a professional direction, it's a complete slap in the face to the club that debuted you. And if I'm being honest, as much as I love Lockyer Galvin as a player, I wouldn't be having him in my first grade squad right now, just because of the insult it is to the club to make that decision 2 years out from your contract. So obviously he is in the side now and you guys are killing it, and I wouldn't change anything now. But moving forward, if the club does find some success and potentially go deep into the finals, which I definitely think is a possibility, I still don't see Lockyer Galvin at the club, and not only just due to his decision, but I don't think the club, believes they're still in a position that they need to desperately cling on to these players. Like I said before, you've got a guy like Latu Fainu, who, if I'm being honest, before Lockyer Galvin was debuted, I saw, Fainu as your long-term 6, and one of the best 6s in the competition. And, as much as it sucks for Tigers fans to be losing Galvin, having a guy like Latu Fainu is a blessing in disguise. And 100%. I think it could even, there is potential for it to potentially be a better decision for the club. Because, you've got a guy like Latu Fainu who's going to be a star in this competition. There's no doubt about it. And so, yes, while I do think that the Tigers can find some success this year, I don't think that changes the decision for Lockyer Galvin on either side. And if anything, I think it lays the foundations even further for Latu Fainu to come in and kill it.
100%, man. I agree totally. I cannot wait for Latu to come in and just absolutely tear it up out there with Luai. Yep. It's going to be awesome. And as Luai says, this is business, bro. And things go on. At the end of the day, Benji wants to win as many games as we can this year and build a successful club. And so I totally get Galvin being in, but I'm on the same boat. For up to me, man, it would be a hard pill to swallow to put him back on that team after everything that went down. So let's wrap it up here. This weekend, Melbourne Storm. Honestly, who do you think is going to win? Your final score prediction. And then what do you think is going to be our biggest, not pain point, but thing that we need to focus on in order to shut them down and win? And then vice versa. What do you think Melbourne Storm's biggest weakness is going to be that we could expose and then, use to our advantage?
Yeah, I think that this game is more of a coin flip than people realize. I actually don't. I don't have the stats in front of me right now. I don't remember the last time Storm lost back-to-back games.
Been a while. It has been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a long time since the Storm have lost back-to-back games. I think that Storm come in with a point to prove, and I think it'll be really difficult for the Tigers to win. I am going to go the Storm this week, purely off the back, only off the fact that they lost last week, and 100%. I can't see them losing games in a row. But as I said before, and I said it earlier in the show, the biggest thing for the Tigers to focus on this week is nailing those 1%ers. I think if Benji can kind of instill that mentality into them, for this weekend, I don't think if I'm being honest, I think Tigers have more talent across the park than the Storm do. But it's just about nailing those 1%ers. And if he can instill that in that side, I can definitely see an upset coming this week. Either way, I see it being a high-scoring affair. I think both sides got some points in them this week. But I do have the Storm edging them out, probably 1-12. But if the Tigers can kind of nail those 1%ers and focus on staying in the grit and grind of the match and not fading away, halfway through the match, I definitely see this one being a lot closer than probably many fans realize. And for the Storm, I think it's about just getting back to Storm footy. Not playing down to their opponent, but staying at the level that they are at, and if need be, they need the Tigers to come up to their level. And I definitely think that Bellamy is going to instill that into them this week, because they definitely did not have that in them last week. So I've got the Storm 1-12, but again, if Benji can instill that, that premiership mentality that, they've been building in the first 2 months of the season, I definitely see an upset coming.
100%, man. I definitely agree. But as a Tigers fan, we've got to stay optimistic. So I know we're going to come out, we're going to kick butt. But Melbourne Storm, seriously though, tough team, and we are going to be tested this week. And if we don't nail down, especially what went wrong in that second half against the Dragons, we will come out with a loss. I know it. So I know the boys have a big week, and Benji's on them for sure. But thanks so much, Isaac, for coming on, man. We greatly appreciate it. Honestly, it's been a real pleasure chatting to you today. We'd love to do it again at some point. How can people reach you and follow you and do all the things?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And honestly, I'm super happy that I was able to come on today. I'm always happy to kind of chat footy, as I said, and kind of go through everything. I know as a Bulldogs fan, I know that getting into those deep dives for my team is also an awesome thing, and the fact that you guys got that going on for the Tigers is it's great. For those who kind of want to get to know me a little bit more and kind of what I'm doing, as I said earlier, all my information is over on my Instagram, which is Isaac Issa _journalist. And there you can get all my links. So as I said, I do a lot of work for Zero Tackle. So if you're keen on keeping up with the latest news in footy, or the trending topics or anything really surrounding footy, I write about all of it and I publish it over on zerotackle.com.au. But if you're keen to just get all my links and everything like that, just head over to the Instagram. It's Isaac Issa _journalist. And then if you've got any news or any collaborations that you want to do, just hit my DMs and we can chat. But other than that, that's basically it for me, man.
Beauty. Sweet. Well, yeah, I'll link all that in my description. That way people can, directly get there. But yeah, I love Zero Tackle. So if any of the viewers haven't been to Zero Tackle yet, it's literally the one-stop shop for all things footy. And I find it super non-biased too, which is greatly appreciated as a Tigers fan. But man, thanks for jumping on. You have a great day. And all the best to you and the doggies this year, brother.
Awesome, man. All the best to the Tigers fans. I'm keen to, chat to you in the future.
All right. You take it easy. So what do you guys think? Are we in for an extremely successful year as a club? Who are your signings that you would love to see? Drop them in the comments below. And what did you think overall of our brother Isaac Issa? Yes, he is a Canterbury fan. That's all right. We will give him grace. But overall, he spoke some really good stuff about our club and about our team and our boys. And the fact that, he does this for a living, he knows the club inside and out, and he knows the inner workings of all of this. So, make sure you follow him on socials. I will link it all below in the description. But he's always putting out great content for NRL Deep Dive, for ABC, and just independently as well. So make sure you give him a follow and a like on all of his platforms, because, man, this is just getting started. We will definitely have him back on the show. And as always, you guys are freaking legends. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Geordie, and I appreciate you being here. Take it easy.